And so I'm going to just start off by telling a little bit of a story about an all-in experience that I had as a child and as an adult to give kind of some reference to what it looks like to go all in. So when I was about 10 years old and in elementary school, the go-to place around my hometown was the community pool. Many of you had a community pool. And for us, it was the diving board was like the bomb.com. It was the place where everybody was, anybody that was somebody was at the pool. And at the time, I was a kind of a short, stumpy kid. I was, as my uncle said, I was kind of like a trash can. You could step on my foot and my mouth would open. And I would eat all the leftovers. And so let's just say I wasn't the most acrobatic kid at the pool at the age of 10. And I would see my older brother and all of his friends doing all these flips and back flips and double flips. And all the girls would clap and yell and they go, "Oh, that's so cute." And then I'd get up there and I'd try to do a flip because I ultimately wanted to be a flip guy. I mean, ultimately my vision was not to be the cannonball guy. I wanted to be the flip guy. But after trying it time and time again, the failure became more painful than the benefit or the chance of actually succeeding at it. The sacrifice that I was giving was beginning to become more and more painful. The kids would laugh. They would end up saying, things to me, or they'd make fun of me. And I kept trying because I really wanted to be that, but it didn't necessarily work out for me. So I came to the point where I just decided to be comfortable. I became ordinary. I became a cannonball guy. And let's not play around. I mean, I could get people wet within a 25-meter radius. I mean, I could make it happen, but it wasn't really what I wanted in life. And so I became more complacent. And, complacency is defined in the dictionary as the act of becoming self-satisfied, unaware of possible dangers. And as we get older, I think we become more complacent over time. The great motivational speaker, Les Brown, says, the average person in America dies at the age of 45. They just don't bury them until the age of 80. It's just, they basically let their dreams die. They stop pursuing things that they always envision themselves doing or being or having. And that's basically what my life led to. And you wouldn't have looked at me and said that I was a failure. I had just gotten extremely comfortable and extremely complacent in who I was. And then at about the age of 35, I was at the pool, at the community pool where I now live with my son, who was 4 years old at the time. He didn't know how to swim and he had a life jacket on. We're in the kiddie pool. I'm about 310 pounds. I'm in the kiddie pool with my shirt off, so I'm about waist deep in water. And let's just say that I was scaring the women and confusing the babies, if you know what I mean. It was not a good position. And my son was becoming distracted by the kids that were jumping off the diving board. And they were doing flips and things of the acrobatic nature that I couldn't do when I was a kid. And I could see it in his eyes that he wanted to go do something extraordinary. He wanted to go over there and jump off the diving board. And he said to me, "Dad, can I go jump off that diving board?" And I said, "Where's your mom?" And he didn't have a life jacket. He did have a life jacket on. So I thought, well, it's safe enough. So I went over there, he stood in line and he got up on the diving board after much hesitation and with a little bit of coaching. This is like my first coaching experience, but I coached him down the end of the plank and he finally just fell in. And when he fell into the water, I could see the look in his eyes and his face. I mean, his smile was so wide, he could eat a banana sideways. I mean, he was really excited. And I think that that's a great example of when we step out of our comfort zone and go do something, we begin to become more excited about life. We feel this adventure. So going all in actually has an adventure component to it. And I could see it in his eyes. And many of you have had your kids or your grandkids, nieces and nephews that have had this experience where they didn't die going off the diving board. And so what they did was they came to the side as soon as they got done, right? What's the first thing that they say to you as soon as they're done? "Can I do it again?" Right? "Can I do it again?" And so I stood there right by the lifeguard stand and was ready to go Navy SEALs and save him if he didn't make it. But he got back in line. And this time I could see him getting up on the diving board and I could see his confidence and his competence and what he was doing changed. And he gave me the big thumbs up. And I thought, oh no, what's going to happen here? And he takes off running at the age of 4 years old, second time on the diving board, and he throws his legs over his head and flips at the age of 4. You see, he was watching people from the side to do something, and he just replicated their success. He hadn't had the experiences or the failures or the pain of not flipping to stop him. He just chose to do it. He made the decision to just go all in. And it was at that point in time, at the age of 35, 310 pounds, I'm looking at my son and saying, I can do what he just did. And so I got up on the diving board, and finally, after, a lot of friends and family members are starting to gather around, I'm getting a little bit nervous because now there's a lot of, people watching. And I told my son I was going to do a flip. So I was ready to go all in. And I had made a decision when I told my son I was going to do a flip. I meant it, meaning that I was not going to leave that pool that day. If a 4-year-old can do a flip, I can do a flip. I mean, I used to play professional football. I know how to be athletic, but I was not going to give up on that all-in dream. And so what I did is, because I'm a little heavier at the time, I went over to the end of the diving board, and it's one of those new diving boards with new technology. So I just kind of gave it a once over at the end of the diving board, and it went down and kissed the water and came back up. So it had a lot of bounce to it. So I was a little bit nervous, but I was all in. And so I went to the back of the diving board, and I just, with fear in my mind, I wasn't kicking fear in the face. I was trying to be fearless. I was trying to have less fear than what I was actually about to experience, because I remembered the pain of failure. And when I failed to do the flips, it wasn't like I just did a back flop. It was like I did a back smack, if you know what I mean. I mean, just the noise alone was painful, but let alone the pain in my back or my stomach when I did the belly flop. And so all of a sudden, all those fears started to dwell in my mind. But I had decided, and I told my son that I decided to become a flip guy that day. So I just did it. I just ran to the end of that diving board and got a big old bounce. And lo and behold, I was shot almost to the moon. And I realized all those memories coming back. And I hit the water with a big old smack, and I was going under the water, and the pain in my back was significant, but the pain in my mind was even more. And I didn't want to go to the top because I knew that people had saw me fail. I knew that it was going to be just like I was when I was 10 years old. But as soon as I got out of the water, I looked to the lifeguard to see what she thought, and she was covering her mouth, laughing. And then I heard the noises, right? Nice job, Bush. Do it again. But I had made a decision that day to be a flip guy. So I decided to get up on the ladder and go back and get on that diving board once again. And I failed again. And then I got back up and did it again. And the third time I decided to do it, I did it. And that day, I felt so much enthusiasm because for 25 years of my life, I had become ordinary. I had settled for something less than what I was capable of. I was always the flip guy. I just didn't pursue it all in. I didn't make the decision. And as my son and I are giving each other high fives and we're walking back to the kiddie pool, my son says, Dad, can I jump off that high dive? And I said, no, that's for adults, Bo. And he said, Dad, you're an adult. Yeah, I am an adult. Stand here. And I went to the top of that high dive. And let me just say that the high dive is called the high dive for one reason. It's a lot higher than the other dive. And I got up on that high dive, and the barometer's a little bit different, but I had made a decision that day. I was going to be a flip guy from then on. And I ran to the end of that diving board, scared out of my mind, and did a flip off the high dive and landed it. I was fully capable of landing high dive flips my entire life, but I had reserved because of the fear and the sacrifice and the pain, and it pulled me back. And so my question to you as I turn it over to Tracy is, what is your flip? What is your all-in flip physically, mentally, financially, vocationally, relationally? And what are you holding yourself back for? Because I believe that each and every one of you has inside of you the capacity to grow, to become all in, and to become a flip person.